Welcome back to another video. Hopefully you're here trying to build a fun treasure scavenger hunt for a loved one or business or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just here to teach you. My name's Chris Waters. I go by The Architect, and today we're going to take a deeper dive into a book cipher. It's also called an Ottendorf cipher, and you might remember this if you've seen the cinematic masterpiece National Treasure. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, I might mess up a small piece of it, though the movie came out like 10, 20 years ago, so at this point, you probably deserve just to have it spoiled. Anyway, in this movie, Nicolas Cage and his team successfully steal the Declaration of Independence. They turn it over, and on the back, there's supposed to be a map. They end up using a reagent that's lemon juice and heat, which I'll do in a later video if that's actually a useful thing to do, or if you should just use black lights. But what they end up getting is a series of numbers on the top left corner, as well as a key. You actually hear Ben Gates, Nicolas Cage's female counterparts say, oh, it's an Ottendorf cipher. But a much easier way to go about it is called a book cipher. Now, what is a book cipher? If you check my quick 1-minute video, that explains it very succinctly, but in simple terms, it's an indexing puzzle, which basically has a series of numbers that point to a letter in a block of text or on a series of pages. There are a lot of ways that you can go about encoding it. In the movie, they use page numbers and then lines and then words. I personally like to take one solitary block of text, like a paragraph or a page in a book, and do line, word, letter. So you figure out what number line, then what number word, then what number letter in the word, and that gives you a letter. The Ottendorf cipher is incredible, and I use it all the time. Very rarely will I do an adventure that doesn't incorporate the Ottendorf cipher at some point in time, for two reasons. One, it's just super fun. It works, it's clean, it's kind of exciting. You can create puzzles, not necessarily around knowing whether or not it's an Ottendorf cipher, because you kind of want to tell them, but the puzzle can be around figuring out what the key is. Now in the movie, the key to this Ottendorf book cipher was the Silence Do-Good letters, which was the letters, I guess, that Ben Franklin wrote to a local newspaper when he was a kid pretending to be an older lady named Silence Do-Good. But in my case, you can find blocks of text anywhere. One of my favorite things to do is using some type of plaque on a statue or on an old building or something out in public, because it's completely safe and self-contained. That plaque isn't going anywhere. From the time that you decide, cool, I'm going to do this, to the time that you take a picture of it and you encode that, realistically, it's not going to get taken down. The building isn't going to get bulldozed. The statue probably won't get taken down, though be aware, depending on if the statue is of a person that did horrible things, then that's just coming to light. You run that risk, but odds are it should be fine. So this works for two reasons, like I said. One, it's fun. And two, you can use it anywhere. But the other piece of it is it's completely safe. Since it's a decode, just like if you watch my decodes videos, it is something where you don't have to be there. So it frees you up to set up maybe a more intricate set piece or gambit down the road. That's kind of the big thing. It's why I love using it. And there are so many practical applications. You can do it with a statue or a plaque. You can send them to a library and send them to a book where they're using a specific book that they find. Maybe it's a clue with a library book number, and they find that, and there's a little note that sends them to page 55 or something like that. There's lots and lots of different ways to do it. When it comes to encoding an Ottendorf cipher, there is one website that I'll put in the show notes where you can type in the paragraph or copy paste the paragraph, and then it'll do it for you, but there's still going to be a lot that it takes. One of my pro tips with an Ottendorf or book cipher is to reuse the same letters. What you'll find with this is it's really exciting and fun in the beginning, But the longer that it goes on, your player just, they move over from like jubilation to figuring out what it is to kind of a tedium where they're like, oh my God, I know what to do. I just don't want to do it anymore. I learned my lesson, gosh, back in adventure number 6 or 7. I sent people to a library and they had to decode a really long sentence about going to this park and turning here and finding this musician under a tree. And they were on all sorts of different pages and they were moving back and forth. And that was kind of the one feedback that I got, was like, make it shorter and make it easier. And so it makes it easier on you when you're using the same E, right? Maybe 1-2-3 equals E. There's probably a couple other E's in that paragraph, but use the same one. It makes it easier for you to encode because once you get the first one, you can plug it in. It reduces the chances that you're going to mess up somehow, like switching letters or numbers or things like that. And it's a little bit more fun because once your player starts to figure it out, it gets easier and easier and easier, which is kind of how I like to do my encoded messages and puzzles. I want it to start difficult, and then once they've kind of had that aha moment, like, okay, cool, I've got it, I figured it out, little more work, and then I'm done. It is important with all decodes, especially if you're doing something time sensitive, like leading to a surprise party or a proposal, that you err on the side of being too clear. I would, once again, so much recommend that when you do an Ottendorf cipher, you make it very clear about what it is and how it works. And then the puzzle that you create or the riddle that you have is what sends them to this block of text. Maybe it's something where they have to find a directional puzzle, where they have to find a plaque in the city, right? Turn down these different blocks or use these different things. Maybe it's something to do with their favorite poem. I've used that before. Or a favorite book, right? Turn to page 47 in, in our favorite book that we read when we went on vacation, right? If you're going to do something romantic, you can include those things in. In closing, Book Ottendorf Cipher is awesome, extremely versatile. I use it all the time. I absolutely love it. I strongly recommend doing the line, word, letter, those 3 numbers, line, word, letter, instead of page numbers. Rule 2, make sure that the sentence, phrase, whatever you're trying to tell them isn't super long, because once they crack this and they figure out the first word, it just becomes less fun and becomes more tedious. Rule 3, once you determine that this number equals E, use that over and over and over again. It's not fun for them to look down this line, look at this word, look at this letter, it's E. Okay, look down this line, look at this word, look at this letter. Oh, it's also E. It just doesn't work. It's nice to make that one solve and then get 2 or anything after that. Always err on the side assuming that they don't know what the puzzle is, depending on the stakes. If you're with them and you want to make it a hint, you can do that. If you want to have them watch the movie National Treasure before they start their adventure, you can do that too. But when push comes to shove, if it's a really important day, err on the side of making it easier and more clear, and really push to have your puzzle or riddle be about figuring out how to combine the actual encoded message and then the key, which is that block of text. You want to bring those together. And so once they have this and this, they know exactly what to do, versus like, okay, cool, we have this and we found this and I still don't know what to do and this isn't fun. So use your best discretion. You know your player better than I do, but hopefully these helpful tips and hints send your player on a really fun adventure and make everything smooth for you. That's my goal. So thank you so much. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. It really helps me and it helps people find me when they're in need of a bit of a guide. I don't mention this often, but you can always literally hire me. I'm beginning to start taking clients for potential 2021 adventures, assuming that the world returns to a little bit of normalcy by then. I do also consult, so if you really need a lot of help figuring things out, you can hire me to consult. And then finally, if you enjoy what I do here, you can throw me a few bucks on Patreon. If you really enjoy this and it's brought you a lot of value, don't hesitate to do that, because it really supports me. Otherwise, you can check me out on Instagram or Twitter, I guess. I'm not really on Twitter. And then I have a subreddit, r/constructed adventures. And I'm quite active in there, and so are a bunch of other really fun, really engaging puzzle hunt creators, ARG creators, just people that do this type of stuff more often. And so there's lots of wonderful people posting questions or giving great answers and feedback, and it's a wonderful little community. But until next time, happy adventuring.